It sounds like the monarchy will be shifting in a slightly different direction.
I think it's safe to say that change is on my agenda. Change for good. And I embrace that and I enjoy that change. I don't fear it. That's the bit that excites me, is the idea of being able to bring some change.
It's relatable, and it's something that I think is going to help modernize the monarchy from seeming like a stiff, out-of-touch institution into something that more young people, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, can relate.
In February 2026, Buckingham Palace released a short and calm statement. Just 2 paragraphs. The language looked polite and simple on the surface, but behind palace doors, the reaction was explosive. What appeared to be routine paperwork suddenly shook royal circles in a way nobody expected. The message revealed a stunning development. Prince William had been named the sole beneficiary of one of the most secret and historically important private estates ever linked to the monarchy.
In Prince Harry's book, Spare, he tried to paint Prince William, his brother, as this jerk, right? As this asshole, as this jerk, as this guy he couldn't get along with, pardon my French. Prince William has shown us time and time again, he understands the moment we're in our culture here in 2025, moving into 2026. He's open, he's vulnerable, he's open to change, he wants to work with other people, hear other points of view.
And here's the shocker. It wasn't Sandringham House, it wasn't Balmoral Castle, and it wasn't Windsor Castle. This property was something older, something that had stayed hidden for decades under the watch of Queen Elizabeth II herself. When Queen Camilla and her son Tom Parker Bowles realized what had been transferred and what had clearly been kept out of their reach, the mood inside the palace shifted instantly. Staff members whispered quietly in corridors that the tension felt sharper than anything they had seen in years.
We have to talk about the real royals, Prince William. So Prince William is being praised in People magazine. They're gushing over his openness and the fact that he's unfiltered and relatable. And you guys know I've spoken about this for months. I think what people love about Catherine and William, she was open about her cancer. She was open about how, hey, I am struggling to get back to work and balance being a mom and deal with my health and show up for the people in my life. Prince William is very open about how he doesn't want the press to be able to operate in the same way they have for decades. He wants to modernize the monarchy, let people in of all different persuasions and backgrounds. And so I'm not shocked to see them praised in People magazine. I actually think it's such a shame that Harry and Meghan didn't stick it out. They didn't want to work and stick it out, because the monarchy, I think, is really going to modernize with William and Catherine and enter into this new, beautiful, incredible era.
But this story goes far beyond a normal inheritance. Hidden estates, sealed agreements, and unexpected confrontations all play a role here. At the center of everything stands the late Queen's final strategic move. A quiet decision that locked a piece of royal history into place. The estate at the heart of the mystery carries a name few people had ever heard before, the Cedar Estate. And its story didn't begin in 2026 at all. In fact, it traces all the way back to 1944 during the darkest chapter of World War II. At that time, King George VI quietly purchased land deep in the Chiltern Hills, right along the border between Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire. The property wasn't meant to attract attention. In fact, the entire design focused on the opposite.
Where he talks about how he wants to impact people's lives for the better when he becomes king.
I want to create a world in which my son is proud of what we do. In a world and a job that actually does impact people's lives for the better. That is caveated with, I hope we don't go back to some of the practices in the past that Harry and I had to grow up in. And I'll do everything I can to make sure we don't regress in that situation.
It was meant to stay completely out of public sight. No official listing in royal registries, no press announcement, no ceremonial unveiling. For more than 80 years, the Cedar Estate existed in total silence, known only by a tiny circle of trusted royal aides and archivists. That raises an obvious question. Why keep an estate hidden for 8 decades? The first hints of an answer appeared in briefing notes shared with royal correspondents that same February morning in 2026. Those notes describe something extraordinary. According to the documents, the estate holds a private chapel with a memorial vault honoring royal family members who served during wartime. Inside separate archival rooms, there are reportedly 186 oak chests filled with wartime letters and confidential royal communications. The discoveries didn't stop there.
Well, I'm hoping every other prince I run into is as nice, open, and human
The estate is also said to contain 72 hidden portraits, including unseen oil paintings of King George VI and Princess Margaret. But the most surprising revelation involved a collection of 14 sealed audio recordings of Queen Elizabeth II speaking privately with major world leaders such as Winston Churchill, Nelson Mandela, Ronald Reagan, and Charles de Gaulle. One royal archivist described the collection in words that instantly stuck with people. He said, "This is not a museum of history, it is the raw architecture of royal memory." And then came the twist that made insiders raise their eyebrows even higher. Between 2017 and 2021, Prince William had quietly been visiting the Cedar Estate on private weekends, away from cameras and far from headlines. But he didn't show up like a tourist, not even like a ceremonial guest. When William arrived, he worked. He walked through the cedar groves alongside Queen Elizabeth II. He studied wartime letters preserved from World War II. He sorted naval dispatches and examined faded documents that most people will never even know exist. He even helped reorganize hundreds of letters written by soldiers during the war. At one point, reports say he personally assisted with repairs to the moisture control system that protects the estate's archives. This wasn't royal performance. This looked like genuine responsibility. The Queen clearly noticed that dedication. Inside sealed covenant documents, she left a handwritten note about William. The line was direct and powerful. She wrote, "He will inherit more than the crown. He will inherit the silence that preserved it." That sentence wasn't just poetic language. It carried real weight. Behind the scenes, a powerful legal structure had already been put in place. The Cedar Estate was not part of the Crown Estate. It also didn't fall under the Duchy of Cornwall. Instead, it was protected by a private legal mechanism known as the Covenant Trust. The trust was quietly created in 2020 and sealed with official royal authorization.
That's what Harry and Meghan are doing. They don't want to do any work for the royal family. They're persona non grata. They've done tell-all books and docuseries and interviews with Oprah, airing out their family's dirty laundry, talking about Catherine in the book, talking about a fight with Prince William in Harry's book. Who does that? I'm just sitting here thinking right now, who does that to their family? If I had a full-out brawl with my brother, who I love dearly, would I come on the internet and talk about it? I'm not a Kardashian. This isn't Bad Girls Club. This isn't Real Housewives.
Inside the documents sat a delayed activation clause designed to trigger only after two major events: the completion of the Queen's state funeral and the public recognition of Prince William as heir to major institutional responsibility. Once both conditions were met, the transfer happened automatically. The official statement made it crystal clear: under the terms of the sealed covenant trust executed by Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 2020, the property known as the Cedar Estate shall pass in full and exclusive guardianship to His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, effective immediately. Simple words, massive consequences. Because not everyone inside palace walls welcomed that outcome. For months, insiders say Queen Camilla and Tom Parker Bowles had been quietly trying to shape a different future for the estate. Camilla reportedly supported a plan called the Windsor Cultural Legacy Center. The idea included elegant retreats, literary gatherings, and carefully curated tours through the cedar groves celebrating royal history. On paper, the proposal sounded refined and respectful. But Tom reportedly saw the property from a completely different angle. He saw a business opportunity. According to private memos reviewed by royal insiders, Tom Parker Bowles had been imagining a completely different future for the Cedar Estate. His vision reportedly centered on transforming parts of the property into an ultra-exclusive culinary destination that would attract wealthy guests and international attention. The proposal included a luxury tasting restaurant inside the estate's old hunting lodge. Alongside it, a specialty brand called Royal Wild was reportedly being discussed behind closed doors. The brand concept sounded polished on the surface. Plans mentioned premium products like cedar-aged cheeses, estate honey, wild trout from nearby streams, and carefully produced seasonal wines.
You might think, okay, what's the big deal? He's talking about his family and their health scares. The royals have been so buttoned up for years, right? The Queen would very seldom speak openly about anything she had going on. Prince Philip, Charles, they just wouldn't do it, right? They would have a stiff upper lip. They really wouldn't be that open. And so when you see Prince William talking about how things change in the blink of an eye and how his wife's health was such a scare, I also think that's relatable because there's not a person on earth whose family hasn't been affected by cancer or a health scare in some way, shape, or form.
The idea was to package the estate's natural resources into a refined experience designed for elite visitors and high-end markets. Then everything suddenly shifted on October 18, 2025. A leaked briefing note revealed something unexpected. Tom's legal advisors had been quietly studying whether parts of the estate could be reclassified under heritage law. Their argument pointed to the property's wartime origins and suggested it deserved official cultural protection. If that legal path had succeeded, the entire future of the estate might have changed overnight. Under that scenario, full control of the Cedar Estate could have moved away from a single guardian. Instead, the door might have opened to shared oversight, committees, and outside institutions stepping into the picture. So pause for a moment and think about that situation. Was the goal truly protecting a historic royal legacy? Or was it a strategic business move presented through the language of heritage preservation? The debate quietly intensified in November 2025. That month, Queen Camilla hosted a private reception near Henley-on-Thames. The guest list raised a few eyebrows. It included wealthy heritage donors, respected art historians, and several well-known food critics. Officially, the event focused on rural sustainability and historic preservation. But people who attended later said the atmosphere hinted at something bigger happening behind the scenes. One guest described the gathering very bluntly. They called it a trial balloon, basically a quiet test to see how people might react to a future plan. According to several insiders, the idea floating around the room involved a public-private stewardship model.
And she's showing up for all of her obligations because that's what it means, right? If you're going to be king and queen someday, you don't get to call in sick. You don't get to call in sick. It's like when you're the president, you got to show up every single day for all of her obligations. And so shout out to Catherine for doing that. We're so happy she's in great shape. It's a shame those folks in California want to drive a wedge between the family and continue spewing lies and gossip and trying to cash in.
In that setup, Camilla's charitable foundation and outside donors could help oversee projects connected to the Cedar Estate. And when Prince William eventually heard about the reception, he didn't start a public dispute. There was no dramatic statement and no visible argument. Instead, his reaction was calm and firm. He simply declined to take part. William reportedly chose to follow the original vision left behind by Queen Elizabeth II, sticking closely to the framework she had established years earlier. Just 3 weeks later, the Covenant Trust mechanism connected to the estate quietly activated. But the Cedar Estate wasn't the only royal property quietly shifting behind palace walls. On January 31st, 2026, updates appeared in records maintained by the UK Land Registry. The changes involved another historic property, one that some insiders say Camilla never expected to lose influence over. The property is known as Northacre Hall, a sprawling 1,200-acre estate surrounded by the ancient hedgerows of Wiltshire and the rolling countryside of Berkshire. For years, the estate stayed mostly out of public attention, yet during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, the grounds quietly hosted private hunting weekends and occasional diplomatic gatherings away from public cameras. Experts say the estate's importance goes far beyond land alone. The property also carries agricultural income streams and historical licensing rights connected to an 8th century royal tradition. In simple terms, it represents a very powerful asset. What surprised palace insiders most was the timing of the legal paperwork. Documents dated September 8, 2022, just weeks before the Queen's passing, show that she quietly reclassified Northacre Hall from a shared Crown Estate asset into a personal sovereign holding.
Are you optimistic?
I am optimistic. I'm generally a very optimistic person, especially when I'm with someone like you, Eugene. Life is sent to test us as well, and it definitely can be challenging at times. And being able to overcome that is what makes us who we are.
That technical shift allowed the property to be transferred privately through her will, rather than through the normal process of royal succession. Inside one section of the document, a handwritten note appeared that many insiders still talk about today. It read, "Let Northacre remain with the child who bears the burden of our future. Let it be not merely shelter, but sanctuary." The decision surprised many observers because it bypassed both King Charles III and Princess Anne. Inside royal circles, the reaction was quiet but intense, like a stone dropping into still water at midnight. Royal archivists later noted that this move represented the first secret personal transfer of a royal estate since Queen Victoria reorganized certain Highland holdings back in 1872. According to historical notes, only 2 witnesses were aware of the arrangement at the time: Lady Sarah Chatsworth and the Queen's legal advisor, Sir Alistair Denholm. The envelope containing the sealed directive carried a curious message written on the outside. Just 3 words: "For the reign after me." But while those plans remained hidden, other ideas were quietly circulating behind palace doors. Leaked internal notes suggest that by 2023, Camilla and Tom Parker Bowles had been exploring ways to include Northacre Hall in a broader culinary heritage project. Public descriptions of the idea focused on a farm-to-table revival celebrating British agriculture. Privately, however, the proposal reportedly attracted serious financial interest, including luxury investors from the United Arab Emirates and a venture capital group based in Paris. Early concept outlines reportedly mentioned a 5-star boutique hotel, a heritage cooking academy, and a full rebranding effort that would turn the estate into a luxury destination connected to royal heritage. One commercial projection from July 2025 estimated that licensing rights connected to Northacre Hall could reach £48 million within 10 years.
She looks like someone who is going to be queen someday. She's out getting it done and showing up for people like a modern woman. So shout out to Catherine.
A royal courtier later summarized the mood inside palace corridors with a sharp remark. They said, "Everyone thought the game was already decided." Some insiders believed that Queen Camilla felt confident she had built quiet influence around the estate through timing and connections. But Queen Elizabeth II had prepared one final strategic move. And when it surfaced, everything changed. Soon afterwards, subtle whispers began circulating through royal commentary and media circles. According to insiders, the messaging campaign was quietly guided by Camilla's longtime advisor, Maurice Lull, a retired public relations strategist known for operating through discreet palace channels. By late 2025, a wave of anonymous opinion pieces started appearing across newspapers and glossy magazines. The tone was subtle, but the message was loud. The writers argued that the monarchy had invested too heavily in historic estates and should rethink how wealth, land, and responsibility were shared between generations. The timing of those articles raised quiet suspicion among royal watchers. The argument sounded academic on the surface, but insiders felt it was part of a larger push happening behind the scenes. Then another move surfaced. Tom Parker Bowles reportedly explored a lease inquiry connected to the southern orchard tract at Northacre Hall. His reasoning was simple and direct. The land, he argued, was mostly unused farmland that could be developed into something more productive. But the request barely made it past the first legal review. Attorneys connected to the Duchy of Cornwall quickly shut the idea down, pointing to strict inheritance protections written into the estate's legal structure. In other words, the land was locked tight. Palace insiders later described Queen Camilla's private reaction as intense. One source said it didn't look like normal frustration. The mood felt colder than that, more like someone realizing they had been outmaneuvered by decisions already sealed long ago. But the story was far from finished. Soon, another estate quietly entered the spotlight, and this one carried deep personal meaning within the royal family. In mid-January 2026, Princess Anne began reviewing private correspondence once belonging to Queen Elizabeth II inside Windsor Castle. The documents were being examined inside a quiet archive space known among staff as the Oak Room.
They said, they really couldn't modernize the monarchy. It was so stiff, it wouldn't change. William seems so malleable to change. He wants to modernize the monarchy.
During the review, Anne reportedly discovered a folded document tucked inside a leather folio labeled W. William George. Inside was something unexpected. The document referenced another property almost nobody outside the royal archives had ever heard about: the Clarence Hill estate, hidden deep within the Chiltern Hills. The land had originally been purchased in 1947 by King George VI. From the very beginning, the estate was designed to serve as a private reserve for direct heirs of the crown, far removed from public records, political pressure, and media attention. What stood out most was the Queen's handwritten instruction attached to the document. She wrote, "I entrust Clarence Hill to my grandson William in full title and spirit, free of encumbrance, free of shadow. Let it remain outside the crown estate, immune to politics, immune to scandal. This land is a covenant, not a commodity." Those words carried far more meaning than a simple property transfer. According to royal sources, the Queen had grown increasingly cautious about controversies and media storms surrounding certain members of the extended royal family in recent years. For her, Clarence Hill was meant to serve a different purpose: a quiet sanctuary for Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, away from constant public pressure. But when Camilla reportedly learned about the transfer on January 20th, events began moving quickly. Sources say she gathered advisors almost immediately and met with Tom Parker Bowles at Highgrove House to review possible options. At the time, Tom had recently experienced a business setback connected to one of his food ventures and a dispute involving branding rights. For them, Clarence Hill may have looked less like a private retreat and more like a potential new direction. Leaked internal emails later revealed that a concept had been discussed under a company registered as Hill & Crown Limited, with Tom listed as executive director. The plan reportedly aimed to transform Clarence Hill into a luxury hospitality and agricultural brand centered around sustainability and high-end rural experiences. Within that concept, the estate could host farm retreats, specialty food production, and exclusive countryside stays designed for wealthy visitors seeking authentic rural experiences. In Camilla's vision, Tom could reshape his public identity, building a reputation connected to farming, land stewardship, and modern environmental values. But one crucial detail changed the entire situation. The Queen's codicil had already been officially notarized and sealed inside the royal archives.
I want to play you this first clip, okay, where he talks about how things can change in the blink of an eye.
We've been very lucky. We hadn't had many illnesses in the family for a very long time. My grandparents lived to the high 90s. They were the vision of fitness and stoicism and resilience, if you like.
That meant the transfer had already been completed through the Duchy of Cornwall Trust framework. By the time Hill and Crown Limited attempted to move forward, the legal path was already closed. Then January 28th brought another twist. An anonymous whistleblower, believed by some insiders to be a frustrated former palace aide, sent a confidential business presentation to the office of the Lord Chancellor of the United Kingdom. The complaint suggested that there had been an attempt to commercialize a sealed royal inheritance. The leaked files reportedly revealed detailed planning documents, branding proposals, luxury revenue projections, even architectural mock-ups showing Clarence Hill Estate surrounded by corporate signage layered over its historic Edwardian buildings. The reaction within royal circles was immediate and intense. Not long afterward, Prince William reportedly held a private conversation with Queen Camilla during a lunch meeting at Windsor Castle. The gathering had originally been scheduled to acknowledge the improving health of Catherine, Princess of Wales, but the atmosphere reportedly shifted very quickly. Sources describe the moment as short and unmistakably direct. William reportedly said, "Clarence Hill does not exist to be bottled, branded, or sold. It is the last sanctuary of my grandmother's soul, and I will protect it as I protect my family." Camilla reportedly left the table before finishing her meal. Within 48 hours, Hill and Crown Limited was quietly dissolved. Tom Parker Bowles soon canceled several scheduled appearances, citing exhaustion and scheduling pressure. No official statements were released. But inside palace walls, the message was unmistakably clear. Later, King Charles III reportedly shared a quiet reflection with Princess Anne that soon circulated among senior royal staff. Elizabeth always understood who would safeguard the crown, not simply wear it. Not long afterward, another estate entered the conversation, Greystone Downs. The 400-acre property contains ancient woodland, a Tudor hunting lodge dating back to 1578, and a small stone chapel filled with historic artifacts. Queen Elizabeth II had spent decades protecting the estate as a peaceful retreat from public life. To Prince William, the land represented restraint, continuity, and duty. To others within royal circles, insiders suggested it also carried potential for broader public engagement or future development. 3 weeks before Queen Elizabeth II's will became public, palace aides reportedly discovered preliminary planning ideas connected to Greystone Downs. Some proposals discussed possible adaptive uses for parts of the estate, such as converting certain buildings into heritage tourism or wellness facilities. Princess Anne later came across a confidential message involving legal advisors and parliamentary contacts discussing potential estate possibilities.
If you had an argument with a family member, could you imagine even going on Facebook and posting about it? Could you imagine going out there and broadcasting it? Something should be private. And so shame on Harry and Meghan. I love Prince William. I love this new side we're seeing to him. And I think he's going to step into his role more as king, unfortunately, as Charles gets older and declines before our eyes, which is sad. But I think it is time for another generation.
She brought the matter directly to Prince William. Observers say Anne remained calm but firm. Those familiar with her style often note that her quiet tone tends to signal seriousness. According to sources, she told William, "This isn't simply about property, it's about mother's principles." William then held a private strategy meeting with advisors connected to the Privy Purse. What followed was a careful legal review of the late Queen's estate documents. On February 3, 2026, a sealed codicil preserved in the Royal Archives was formally released. Written in Queen Elizabeth II's own hand and notarized in 2021, the document contained clear instructions regarding Greystone Downs. The codicil restricted any commercial conversion, branding initiative, or structural transformation of the estate unless Prince William personally approved it. The language left little room for interpretation. According to a palace staff member present when the document was reviewed by senior figures, the room grew very quiet as its contents became clear. But rather than responding publicly, William took a more symbolic step. On February 5th, he visited Greystone Downs with Catherine, Princess of Wales. Photographs later showed the couple walking beside the estate's frozen lake at sunset. There were no speeches or statements, only a quiet moment on land the late Queen had long protected. But another development soon followed involving Greenheath Estate, a lesser-known property supported by a £37 million private trust. In earlier discussions among advisors, some had suggested that the estate could host events, charitable programs, or agricultural initiatives tied to royal foundations and community outreach. However, on January 30th, 2026, Princess Anne, acting in coordination with the Crown Trust Authority, finalized a legal transfer of the estate that had been prepared weeks earlier. The documents placed the property and its trust under Prince William's oversight. Along with the transfer came a private audio message recorded by Queen Elizabeth II. In it, she explained that Greenheath was intended as a long-term educational and environmental stewardship center managed under William and Catherine's guidance. The announcement reshaped earlier expectations for the estate's future. Following the development, advisors connected to several royal households reportedly held meetings to review the legal structure of the late Queen's estate plans. Some explored whether clarification might be needed regarding the interpretation of certain clauses. Within 48 hours, King Charles privately emphasized that Queen Elizabeth II's final wishes should be respected and implemented as written. Soon afterward, Prince William traveled quietly to Greenheath Estate with a single aide and signed the founding charter of the Greenheath Royal Future Trust, formally establishing the property's role in environmental education and conservation. The final revelation involved Oak Ridge, another estate mentioned in sealed documents delivered to the Prime Minister. Unlike Balmoral or Sandringham, Oak Ridge was not part of the Crown Estate, but a privately held royal refuge located along wooded stretches of the Thames. Its estimated value was considerable, but its symbolic importance was even greater. Queen Elizabeth II had often treated Oak Ridge as a place for reflection. William had spent time there during earlier years, learning about royal history, stewardship, and the responsibilities attached to inherited institutions. When the transfer became official, legal reviews confirmed the estate's ownership history and long-standing private status. A clause in the Queen's will, described by legal experts as an anticipatory protection, limited challenges to the estate from individuals outside the core Windsor line of succession. Shortly afterward, a letter from the Queen's longtime solicitor, Sir Jonathan Arbor Field, surfaced containing a final note from Elizabeth herself. "Let this place belong to patience and stewardship. May it be held by the one who understands the weight of responsibility more than the privilege of possession." In the end, Queen Elizabeth II had not simply distributed properties. She had built a careful framework around them, estate by estate, clause by clause, ensuring they would be preserved according to her vision. Her planning reflected a lifetime of experience navigating tradition, family expectations, and the pressures placed on the monarchy. Those close to William say his response has remained characteristically restrained. Fewer public remarks, more focus on charters, legal structures, and quiet oversight of the estates now under his care. At Windsor Great Park in early February 2026, the late Queen's preparations quietly took effect. Trusts activated, documents opened, and responsibilities passed forward. The properties themselves may be historic, but the message left behind was simple: stewardship, patience, and continuity would shape their future. If you watch this and have thoughts, drop them in the comments below. If this breakdown made you see things differently, hit subscribe and stay locked in for more deep dives like this. Don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who needs to see it.